Hi, you're watching India Today Global with me, Ishita Mitra. Viewers, we have been covering Bangladesh politics for you for a while now, and at this hour, we bring you some big developments that are coming from India's neighbor. So, in order to address the resurgence of violence that has been going on against Hindus since August 5, Muhammad Yunus, who's been leading the government since Sheikh Hasina's ouster, has now urged religious leaders to help gather accurate information about the attacks on minorities. Now, I want to emphasize on this. What Yunus is trying to say is that if there are 10 attacks happening, maybe we are just reporting 7 out of them, and 7 is the real number, not the 10. So let us first find the correct number and then go on addressing the issue. Then let's find about who is getting killed, why they're getting killed, and then remedy, and then look for a remedy to that. So if I have to give you the numbers and tell you about the situation that has been unfolding in Bangladesh, the situation is somewhat like this. Over 200 attacks were reported, and these are documented attacks, let me tell you. There are so many more that go unreported. So over 200 attacks have been documented across 50 districts in Bangladesh since the ousting of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. And this is given by a survey. Then there are also reports by an organization called Transparency International Bangladesh. According to their data, over 2,000 cases of attacks have been reported on Hindus, and this was just between 5th August and 20 August. Remember, 5th August was the day Sheikh Hasina fled the country, and this was due to the anti-quota protests that turned violent, and Sheikh Hasina had to flee. So just between 5th and 20 August, 15 days, over 2,000 cases were reported against Hindus in Bangladesh. And remember, these are not just, it's not just Hindu community that has been targeted by these attackers. It's also other minorities, including Christians, Buddhists, and also Ahmadiyyas, basically a minority sect within Islam. They have also come under brutal attacks since August 5. And if you see, over and above the attacks on Hindu and Hindu-owned homes, business establishments, farmlands, as well as attacks on scores of temples have also been reported. We have been telling you about ISKCON temple attack and the attacks on priests that have been taking place in Bangladesh. Apart from this, about 500 Hindu police officers, teachers and government officials were forced to resign by Muslims in various parts of the country. You see, this is a targeted campaign that has been going on in Bangladesh since the ouster of Sheikh Hasina on August 5. And now Yunus, who's said to be or believed to be complicit in the ongoing attacks, has come out and said that, maybe we're not getting the right numbers about the violence. So let's focus first on that, and then we'll try to address the issue. Because of this fear, because of the ongoing scale and because of the scale of the violence that has been going on in the country, many Hindus have even had to flee their homes. Because at this time, the situation is currently not under control, and it doesn't seem like that it will get under control in the future, at least in the nearby future. Yunus now has also gone ahead and said that we need to have reliable information, stating that there is often a gap between reality and what is reported in foreign media. Now, again, as I said before, this is an attack on media. He's saying that whatever numbers media has been giving to you, maybe they're not true, because the scale of violence in Bangladesh as to what foreign media is reporting is exaggerated. This is what Yunus is saying right now. Now, he did not specify any media outlet, but of course, one can understand that Bangladesh's neighbor, India, and Indian media has been reporting the reality as to what's been going on in the country, and his reference could be related to India as well. And if you note that many members of his cabinet have also accused Indian media of spreading misleading narratives about the situation. So rather than handling as to what's happening in the country or addressing the increasing violence, what Yunus and his cabinet members have decided to focus on is the number, or how the situation has been playing out in the foreign media, rather than addressing the situation back at home. Now, this was during a meeting that was attended by leaders from various faith communities. So he went and met a group of leaders from different religious communities, and he expressed his concerns about the safety of minorities and insisted that all citizens have equal rights in Bangladesh. This is a sentence that we have been hearing since, I think, August. He has been going out and saying that every community has a right to practice their religion freely and independently in Bangladesh. But it has been all talks, and he's not been able to walk the talk at all. Now, interestingly, he's been going ahead and talking about media and the narratives about Bangladesh that are spreading in, globally. And he's also talking about the, rights and free speech and the role of media. But just a day he was addressing the group of different faith leaders, a special tribunal in Bangladesh banned the publication of any speeches by former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who's currently in exile in India. Now remember, here is Yunus coming out and saying that the numbers that foreign media is reporting about the violence in Bangladesh, they're not true. Let us go and find the correct information and report that, because we need to value the importance of reliable information. He's saying that, going out and putting out correct numbers is important, and therefore also underscoring the importance of free speech. But at the same time, a special tribunal goes ahead and bans the speeches of Sheikh Hasina. You see how two contradictory incidents have been happening in Bangladesh. Now, this decision came just a day after Hasina made her first public speech in a virtual address to her supporters of Awami League Party in New York. And in her first public address since being ousted, Hasina accused Yunus government of failing to protect minorities, something that has been documented, something that is there in global media as well as domestic media, And Sheikh Hasina went and labeled his administration's actions as hate speech. So Sheikh Hasina is basically saying that what you have been doing or have been basically unable to handle so far can be called as hate speech. However, you see, Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal termed her remarks as hate speech. What Sheikh Hasina said about Yunus and about Yunus unable to control the violence against Hindus, now that remarks have been termed as hate speech by the International Crimes Tribunal. And meanwhile, Yunus government said that there was a smear campaign against Yunus administration. You see this victim mentality playing out in the Yunus cabinet ever since violence has been rising in Bangladesh. You go ahead and do not take a step about what's happening in your country. You go ahead and let the violence that has been happening against Hindus and other minority communities to happen, and then what you do is you put on a mask of a victim. You say that the numbers global media has been reporting, they're not true. There's a smear campaign going on against us. It's by India, it's by Sheikh Hasina and any other media that tries to show you the truth. This is what has been happening in Bangladesh. Now, these accusations which have been leveled by Sheikh Hasina underscores the growing tensions between the interim government that is led by Muhammad Yunus, as I just mentioned, and Hasina's supporters. Because you see, it's not just the Hindu community that has been under attack in Bangladesh, it is also Hasina's supporters. Her party has been facing massive crackdown. The leaders have been arrested, they've been killed, they've been abducted. And this is ever since Sheikh Hasina's ouster and Muhammad Yunus came into power. But the situation has further complicated efforts to address minority rights in Bangladesh, because how do you go on addressing something that you do not even want to accept at its whole length? You're not saying that attacks happening and these are the correct numbers. You're saying maybe attacks are happening, maybe the numbers are not correct, and then we'll see how to address the situation. So this has complicated the situation, and of course the ties between New Delhi and Dhaka as well, and its growing proximity to Pakistan is also something that is becoming a major factor in how India and Bangladesh will address their ties. Now, while these are the developments on the social front, the political landscape in Bangladesh is also shifting dramatically. Of course, we said, ever since basically Yunus came into power, there has been attack on Sheikh Hasina and her legacy. Now, reports indicate that interim government is planning to redesign currency notes. So, in Bangladesh, the currency notes used to have a picture of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Bangladesh's founding father, and Sheikh Hasina's father as well. Now, they are saying that they're going to remove those pictures, and the new notes will instead feature cultural motifs and religious landmark, and basically all these elements will be inspired by the July demonstrations. Remember, these are the demonstrations that led to the ouster of Sheikh Hasina. If I have to tell you about the narrative, how these demonstrations were played out in Bangladesh, so they were said to be one of a kind of a revolution that is taking place in Bangladesh. It was a student-led protest, they said, that was basically taking place against the injustice that Sheikh Hasina has been doing. This was a narrative that was played out in Bangladesh, and inspired by this narrative, now they're changing what will be visible on their notes. The central bank of the country says that bank notes of Taka 20, 100, 500 and 1000 will be redesigned in line with the directives from the interim government. Four currency notes, four notes of four denominations will be changed, and they will then have new symbols which will be very different from what the legacy of Bangladesh has been, from what their history has been. Now remember, this comes just weeks after media reports said that Rahman's portrait was taken down from Yunus's office as a concession to the students who led the protest against Sheikh Hasina. Remember, this has been the case since August 5. We have been seeing that Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's statues, his murals, they have been attacked and vandalized across the country. His legacy, they've been trying to erase his legacy and his role that he played in the war of 1971, the liberation war of Bangladesh, and the narrative about Pakistan and the atrocities that were committed by Pakistan's army during the 1971 war. They have been trying to glorify that. They've been trying to basically erase the facts that the atrocities were committed, and their role of Pakistan army has been glorified. Now, obviously this move has sparked discussions about the legacy of Mujibur Rahman amidst the ongoing protests which are perceived against state repression. So now how do we see this? Well, so as Bangladesh will have to navigate this period, it's been marked by political instability, which is something New Delhi doesn't want. New Delhi wants a stable neighborhood so that economic ties can grow, so that politically countries can cooperate to address the challenges in South Asia. But with a country with rising Islamism in the country, with rising extremism and political instability, this is not something that's going to bear anything, that's not going to bear any good for India or for the region as well. So Bangladesh will have to navigate that, and with rising violence against minorities, it will have to address not only what's happening domestically, but how it's being portrayed across the world. The interim government's outreach to religious leaders may be a step towards addressing these critical issues. However, one needs to understand that the point of reference here cannot be just the numbers. You also need to address the problem that is causing those numbers to rise in Bangladesh, and ensure that justice is delivered for those who have been affected by the ongoing violence. However, we do not know basically the effectiveness of these measures and how will they be implemented, because we have been seeing that ever since August 5, Yunus has been reaching out to these religious leaders. This is not the first time that he's reached out to religious leaders. He earlier held a conference with Hindu leaders, spoke to them, asked them about their problems, asked them about the community, asked them about what they have been facing so far. But then the results, we did not see them on ground. There was absolutely no strict step taken by the administration to quell the violence that has been going on, and it was just talks that we basically got to see. So this time we'll have to see that how this plays out on the ground, and whether or not the violence going on against Hindus, whether that will be stopped, whether the army or the government will play a role in basically holding those accountable that have been, carrying out these attacks against minority communities. The situation right now, as if I have to describe it, it's pretty fluid with the ongoing developments expected, both from local and international observers, as they continue to monitor the government's response to these pressing challenges. You see, anytime there's a transition in the government, a government has to face a lot of challenges. But the role of the government has to be to address them and not to become complicit in the ongoing violence or the attacks. And I think that is something that local and international observers will keep on monitoring. Well, thank you so much, viewers, for watching this with us on Bangladesh developments. These are the developments that are coming in from India's neighborhood about the change in the picture of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman on the currency notes, as well as the new meeting between Yunus and the religious leaders. Now, what will be the outcome of these developments in Bangladesh as well as on the region itself? We'll have to see about that. Thank you so much for watching this. Stay tuned to India Today Global with me, Ishita Mitra.